Okay, as far as I know, I think we're ready. Got my headphones, got my hat. Guy is the co-chair here. I guess we're ready to go. Welcome everyone to the Keshe Plasma Reactor group. For Tuesday, every time I say that, it's always Tuesday, strangely enough, January 23rd, 2018. And I've said that it's Tuesday for probably about 5 years in a row, every Tuesday, for the Keshe Plasma Reactor group.
Is it already 5 years, really?
Something
like
that.
4 years and something?
Definitely 4 years. From 2013 was when we first began, I think.
Wow, right.
On the Skype calls, some of them weren't even recorded at first, right? We were just talking amongst ourselves. In fact, we didn't want to record it because maybe the authorities could hear it or something, or, you know, it was all sort of more secretive in a way, and no, we didn't have to be, and we weren't really scared at the time too much, but you know, it was kind of unusual to be talking about reactors and all these different gases and things like that, so it was a little bit unusual. But we didn't record the first sessions on Skype, and then we learned to use pictures and video and so on along with the audio call, and eventually we had, what was it called, GoToMeeting, I think was one of the first things we used. Not true, Vince, I think. And then eventually we graduated to Zoom and other such things. And here we are. And what do we do in the Keshe Plasma Reactor group? Guy?
We explore the world of plasma, of course, but it's quite a big subject.
Yeah, that's a big thing to say. People are going to say, well, what do you mean explore the world? What's plasma? What does that mean? That gets into
I mean, to me, a big statement about plasma, one that blew my mind anyway, that really make me puzzle and try to make me look around and what does that mean, is when you hear that plasma is, I think it's 99.98% of the whole universe. Is that something like that?
According to regular science, yes. But they say that this would not be the plasma part of the universe. But yet, through the Keshe teachings, we're told that even this and this and this, you know, and everything is plasma.
Yeah, I think in some fashion I don't see the difference, because I've been taught the Keshe since the beginning. Anyway, it's like, to me, I see plasma everything, everywhere now. Plasma is everything. It's like there's fields, everything. Everything has gravity. Everything has mass, and everything has, you know, some sort of a field around it. And basically, then you start, you know, visualizing it, which I'm very, you know...
You're artistic, so you tend to visualize.
Something that I need to see first, then I can conceive it. But now I see it as a big, you know, we see it in many movies now. It's all these glows or auras, or, you know, it may explain a lot of the mystique stories of the past, where they were talking about if you raise your own potential through love and through intent, you can maybe glow like and start having an aura, which now we would call maybe ionized field, glowing field around. You know, it's like now we may have more sophisticated ways of talking about it, but I think we may be talking about the same thing. You know, it's like when spirituality merged with science.
Mm-hmm.
And
like, for example, say some of the people in the old days and certain priests and so on would have something called charisma, this sort of magnetic attraction. People would naturally be attracted to them, and so on. And still, I mean, it's still a common term today, right? So you could look at that charisma phenomenon, which in the old way of looking at it. It was more of a psychological phenomenon, let's say. But if you look at it in terms of fields, then becomes a field interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a
how I
whole
see
different
it.
way of looking at it.
You
It
know,
simplifies it.
you know characters, eh? When you gotta, you can have a very neutral characters. People that are basically, they blend in there. You don't see them. They're very neutral. Some are very extroverted and others are very introverted. But let's look at it as polarity, as field polarities. And let's say those extraordinary characters create an extraordinary magnetic or field or very strong field that really resonates and communicates with, a wider audience. And basically, I can see it as fields too. It's like fields really merging. If we all merge into intent and love, and we all decide worldwide to gather together, let's forget the system, let's not believe nobody anymore. Let's redo science and believe in us, that we can achieve it instead of waiting for it and never been delivered by no one. It's like let's this is what's the key for me. It's like let's use science with the purest of intent, which is helping everybody, helping humanity, helping cleaning up this mess, that we're in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I've been following Keshe all along, because it really resonated with me from the beginning. It's like there was really that quest at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And he's always instilled in us this idea of peace has to be part of the whole process, right from the beginning as well.
It's not the most important things we need to raise, and this is the peace towards all beings. And I would wish we could treat animals this way, so we're not so cruel with them, the way we raise them. And it's like the more I study, more I try to forget.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. We were looking at, in one of the previous teachings, we looked at this idea of the elephant charging this guide. There's a YouTube video of the elephant tusk and everything charging at this guide, and you see the back of the guide and you see the elephant charging at the guide, and it's looking pretty bad. This is I think it was a 7-ton elephant in the prime of his life, basically. There's the bull elephant.
Yeah, it's something I wouldn't love to be charged with.
This is the bull elephant that's protecting all the other females that went through the encampment where these guys were. There's a bunch of students and this guide, and the guide was protecting the whole encampment basically, because this bull elephant came up after. They thought all the elephants had gone, but the bull was hanging out behind to protect. He came through and saw these guys and started charging this guide. And the guide's standing there. He's got a stick about 3 or 4 feet long, a skinny little stick, and he's standing there with the stick in the ground, kind of holding it. And he holds his ground, literally, like he stands there. This bull elephant comes right at him and stops about 10 or 20 feet away, basically. Just suddenly stops. And they do a little staring contest thing where the guy just stands there and he's very calm. He says it's very important to stay calm and just communicate with the animal, right? So he's there and he just sets up this thing, and the elephant kind of stands there and looks at him and kind of just moves his head a little bit, and then he starts to rush him again. And the guy just raises his stick a little bit and kind of goes, no. And then the elephant just backs off and saunters away, and he also backs off at the same time. They just agree to each other to leave each other alone, and we both stand our ground.
And that was a wild elephant, or
yeah, this is a wild herd in.
Really,
I forget exactly where it was right now, but and just the point is that communication between humans and animals is important, and we don't, it would be easy, like there's other guides that said I would have shot the elephant because, you know,
of course, yeah, by fear, you know, like that thing's gonna kill me.
I've got the gun, and it's, you know, the fear thing comes up, and sure, it might stop, but what if it doesn't? It'll kill me. Well, I can't have that. There's a certain limit, you know, 10 feet, 20 feet, whatever it is, and boom. But no, he had this little skinny stick, and that was it. That's all he needed. And even the stick was, he didn't raise the stick and shake it or anything. He just raised it off the ground, moved his arms a little bit, and put him back down, and that was enough for that second charge that the elephant did, and they were done. And so it's interesting. There's other guys that live with lions. They travel with the lion herds and sort of take care of them and stuff. So I think more and more we're seeing that sort of thing happening, this communication between animals and humans. Of course, maybe it's just because there's way more YouTube videos than there used to be, and they're all over the internet now. With, you know, you can subscribe to cat videos or dog videos or
I do it all the time on
porpoise videos.
I cannot resist. There's so many beautiful videos of birds feeding fish, and you know, it's like you see things like you wouldn't believe. It's like they do have, you know, this is the thing that gets me, you know, it's like they do have emotional, what seems to be love and care anyway. You can see it with their own cubs and their own kinds, and sometimes with different animals.
Yes,
and this is where
they're raised up together.
There's an empathy there, and this is not supposed to exist in lower. You know, I think that ultimately we'll understand that the whole universe resonates with that force that we call love. Love might be the ultimate, what we call principle matter in Keshe, you know, the descriptions. And we're talking about it's the fundamental power of the universe. It's what makes everything connects and grow, and instead of being, you know, destroying, and you know, like there's
nothing that's isolated anywhere in the universe, because there's strings of connection to everything, right? And that's part of that.
We're all connected, and if we start thinking this way, my goodness, the revolution that we can, you know, that can be accomplished through this, the way we're on the verge of traveling through stars. The way I see it is that we're on the verge of evolving to, you know, a lot of territory, which finally maybe resolve our war-like attitude towards each other, and finally explore with curiosity and goodness. You know, it's like if we can maybe be gardeners of the universe, look at ourselves as, let's make a better home, a bigger home for everybody, and we have the knowledge and capacity to do it, but we need to stop the strife and, you know, the war and the scare tactics, and you know, it's terrible nowadays how chaotic things seems to be.
Well, we talked about that a little bit before the workshop here, and we were talking about a lot of disruptive kind of stuff happening now. You can look at the politics that are happening, and a lot of people are getting busted for this and busted for that, and they're, you know, half the government can't sign up again because they're all getting busted. So the next election is all going to be fresh faces, because there's just nobody wants to run again because they know they'll be, you know, dragged through the dirt, and there's a lot of dirt there, a lot of dirt being dug up for a new foundation, it looks like. So
maybe that was the very first thing we need to do, is our own laundry.
Right. Well, I think that's what's happening on the planet, is planet Earth is doing his laundry day on planet Earth.
Yay! Yay to this.
It's laundry day. So either you air them out now and get them washed up, or you'll get stuck with them later, and it's probably a harder process later when it'll be forced upon one, and rather than a voluntary thing. So, but we're also saying that with all this disruption, and there might be corporations that actually sort of implode on themselves because they've been working these falsehoods for many years and kind of
illusion should dissolve.
There's some companies that they rely on kickbacks and bribery in order to survive, and now they're getting busted for things they did 5 and 10 or 15 or 20 years ago because they left a paper trail or a virtual trail, a digital trail, and now they can just suddenly implode. The things are happening. If it turns out a pedophile is running some major corporation, then he goes down, the corporation goes down.
Yeah, to this.
All this kind of thing is happening.
There's a lot of that happening, actually. The media don't talk about, but I've been studying a lot about, I got lots of time on my hand to study these days.
It's one goes down, they turn in other ones, and it's this massive sort of chain reaction going on. So, but like I mentioned earlier, though, we have this other aspect, though, that when these major corporations implode and all the funds go out to the shareholders or others and so on, the shareholders are sometimes the last ones to get the money, or at least the pension funds that are part of the system that they use to get their funds going in the company and so on, or the pension funds for the company. And if the company implodes and the pension funds are like billions of dollars just gone, and people expected to retire on those funds that are no longer there, then they're left high and dry, and that can happen for, I don't know, say you had a company that hires truck drivers, and the most popular job in Canada and the U.S., I believe, the most prevalent job. And all of a sudden, within 2 years, we'll have automated trucks, and I mean, we already have them, but I mean, like, so much that it'll take over the industry, the same as the taxi industry. Uber is...
Self-driving trucks, you mean?
Uber just applied for self-driving vehicles, which they already have, but it used to have an operator. Now the new self-driving cars don't need an operator.
Imagine that, that's a lot of working people that's going to run out of work, man. This is
a huge amount. And in a very short period of time, within a year or two, because this is what's happening now. Like I mentioned, the key, the minimum wage has been increased in this province, other provinces in Canada, in the U.S. as well. They're gearing up toward this $15 an hour, or I think it's $12 an hour U.S., 15 Canadian, or something like that, in that range. I know it's 15 in Canada. That's what they're shooting for. And this is, to bring up the wages from $10, $11 an hour for minimum wage for previously up to 15. And you think, well, this is great. All those people that have, temporary jobs or working in a burger place or McDonald's or, all these different places, fast food joints and, service stations, all that kind of thing. You'd think, well, geez, now they get minimum wage. That's great for all the people, babysitter, everybody who's involved in any kind of above board company now has to pay that amount. Sounds good on the surface, but what happens is the companies have been sitting back for the last couple of decades, waiting for this point where that $15 an hour break-even point hits. And as soon as that hits $15 an hour, all these major corporations have decided to, well, it's not a decision, it's a business decision. It's an obvious business decision to make money, which is you automate. At $15 an hour,
it's going to be an incentive for them to
start
automating everything.
Oh my goodness. So all the baristas in Starbucks and all these different
places, already
places,
made some of these.
They've already started to automate. So the machines are becoming semi-automated. But as soon as it's $15 an hour, bang! You find virtually overnight they'll be laying off people and instigating either robots that look like us, so it'll be sort of a familiar thing, and they'll be able to interact, and they'll probably be much better than most people at interacting with humans and do their job way better and faster and everything else. And it'll be like, just replaced, And all of a sudden, all these people are out of work. All the truck drivers, taxi drivers, you know, the cooks and the servers and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It's going to take a while, though, because I believe that there's so much.
That's what we think, but
so much a human being can do so far.
They have robots now that
intelligence. I'm talking about a robot doesn't have much
intelligence. Well, they do now because they're hooked up to AI, and they're hooked up to note your emotions, and they can show emotions, and they can start to interact emotionally with people, and find out, you know, interact with, you know, if I'm a robot and I interact with you, I'll poke and prod, find out things about you, what you like and what you don't like, and show you things that you like, and then try to probe the things you don't like and find out why, and then get in deeper and maybe help you work out, smooth out those parts that, you know, for some reason I really hate frogs. They just really bother me.
The problem
well, let's work with that, you know.
The problem is how do you create an algorithm that'll do that in a piece of metal, you know?
Well, that's the thing, is they have already done that, and they're working on it, and the AI starts working on it itself to figure out the problem and so on. Like the new AIs that you can, you know, chat with. They have a chat AIs. They're so good that it's very difficult for humans to tell whether they're talking to a robot or talking to a human.
Yeah, it's called the Turing test.
Yes, right.
Which is basically a test that they developed to test AI intelligence to see if they can fool a human being.
Right.
And if they fool 100%, they pass the test. So basically now they pass the test with AI. Okay, good. I agree on this. I agree that there's certain type of, even
for example, say I'm a robot and you like chess. You think you're going to beat me? Say you're a top chess champion right now.
Yeah, I know.
You think you're going to beat me?
Yeah.
You probably would, but
I just have to pull your plug.
Pulling the plug wins every time.
That's I'll win right there.
Maybe he'll pull your plug back, though.
Yeah, maybe,
that's the problem.
Maybe he foresaw that move.
Yes.
But yeah, this is nowadays. I know there's AI that actually do beat some of the best players on Earth.
Mm-hmm. So the
specialized AI, basically.
Yeah. So the new specialized ones, for example, is which is you'll see this coming on strong, which is probably the second highest number of jobs in North America and probably most of the world, which is healthcare. Okay, so you got these new bots that they look humanoid, and some of them don't actually, but they can move around and help someone, a senior or a handicapped person, in their home, and not need someone to operate it or anything. Just interact, help them get in and out of bed, and lift them up, and do baths and all this kind of thing.
Beautiful technology to help. You know, if we use that all that technology to help
a million people out of work. So again,
but then they can work on different things that are more, let's say, demanding, and because it's extraordinarily demanding on a person to do healthcare. You need to be dedicated to these people. You need to have. I mean, I have high respect for people that work in the medical care because they're always overworked and always underpaid, and basically, in my view,
emotional strain too, right, and so on. So maybe the bots or whatever can relieve some of that pressure that's on the healthcare workers, and then that might allow them to interact with the people on a more personal basis and to resolve some of the issues better, rather than this hurry. Oh, sorry, I have to make your bed first, and oh, sorry, I got to make dinner, and all this busy work that takes place that the bots can take care of. So again, but we come back to this thing that we discussed earlier, where you've got all these unemployed people. What do we do with the truck drivers and the healthcare workers and the this and the that, and virtually everything, even making the car workers that used to make all the cars, well, it's no longer so enticing to have a factory come in because maybe only hire half a dozen people, and yes, it's great for robots.
But in my view, let's find the next Earth. That would be my view. It's like, let's explore. Now we got the technology. We're near there. Time to find new territories. Like
okay, so But you still get all these unemployed people that they have to have support in some way, because
Oh yeah,
otherwise,
yeah.
where does their
yeah.
food, and how did they support themselves?
Yeah,
right?
here
So this is the not new, but the concept that came in before.
I mean, there's discussion depending of what kind of information you get into. It's like I've been studying through the internet, like most of us. It's like we're studying that reality. But there's one called the GCR, which is the Global Collateral Account, which says basically there's a transition between that fiat money that it's been used nowadays, that is based on basically thin air. They print as much as they want, and they basically deplete the whole real value, because it's not backed by gold anymore. And basically what they're talking about, or what I heard, is that there's a system change that is coming, a financial system change. And if I got the story right, is they're warning people to get ready to at least maybe a couple weeks of roughness, where you may everything is be closed around, and so to get prepared somehow for some form of preparation for a transition. But after that, there's like I mentioned, it's like there's something that's been implemented already in Ontario in Canada, which is basically it's a universal
guaranteed annual income.
Yeah, guaranteed annual income, which would guarantee everybody, work or don't work, doesn't matter. Everybody would end up with, let's say, $1,100 per month.
It's 16,000 something a year in Canadian dollars in this first trial.
And then in the global collateral account, what I'm hearing is way more than this. So it's like, but we got the idea here. Somehow robots would work for people, basically doing all the manual work, and maybe now people would specialize more in services, and and maybe more pleasures, entertainment and stuff like that. People, what would drive humanity to leave the manual thing, that you can leave robots to do it, because they're maybe 1,000 times faster at reacting. They don't do accidents, and
yes, right.
It's like
that's the thing about it. In a few years, less than 10, probably more like 3 or 4 years, this whole idea of having accidents will become like
passé. Yeah, it's something.
We won't believe it. Someone actually died in an accident? How could this happen? We'll find a way to totally prevent that next year. We had one this year, and that's not acceptable, or whatever. Imagine, because now we have, North America, probably 60,000 vehicle deaths a year or something like that. It's just, it's incredible, the carnage on and think of all the people hurt and so on, which is big business for hospitals. It's, it keeps the doctors employed. It keeps again, doctors will be unemployed because the automatic driving apparatuses are better at driving than the average person. So
I'm basically, if we look at the history of humanity, okay, I remember the story of that disease that you get when you don't eat fruits when you cross the ocean by boat in the old days.
Scurvy.
The scurvy. That the knowledge of how to erase scurvy was known to the British, okay, for over 100 years, but they never implemented it until it was one of their own doctor that actually discovered it, and the government didn't listen. And they waited almost like 100 years before finally they understood it. Imagine the amount of people they lost in their military and stuff like that. Finally they understood. Okay, and they had the knowledge, but they were not implementing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's true still of the military.
And true still do. I'm sure a lot of things nowadays we can say that there's secret knowledge, secret discoveries that never been implemented.
Mold in the ships that they refuse to acknowledge, and now a lot of the sailors are getting quite sick from the mold in the ships.
And the diesel fume nowadays, how it's revealed, that how it can affect with those little buckyballs all over your system. You know, we're understanding way better GMOs, and people are aware. The people are, you know, not you know, I think in
The average person, you mean, or the scientist?
no, but the average we all the same. My philosophy is that we all have heart or selfishness. We all have a brain or misinformed totally, and we all act, you know, on what we know and feel, or some don't. You know, so we all work on that same concept, all of us. And if you have knowledge, or you try to gain, you know, knowledge, you kind of raise yourself above the mediocrity, and basically you kind of you try, which is my quest. My quest is like a big mountain. It's like I've never been raised a scientist, but I had to climb my own mountain. And now it's becoming a pleasure. I take pleasure out of it, but it's my own quest of knowledge. And basically, I kind of resolved in my spiritual life already that I want to devote myself for humanity and to do good and to be a good use of something. I'll find my place. God will. The universe will. Because when you help the universe will help you. You know. So basically, I got this for a long time. This is my very core. You know me, Rick, and this is nothing new here. But I say, if you already have goodness in your heart, let's climb that mountain of knowledge and use it for the better for humanity and heal this world. And that's what it needs. You know, we need to use all that knowledge the best we can. Actually, I'm. And in my view, we're on the verge of the golden age. If there wouldn't be so many secrets, you know, so many shady deals everywhere that they did at the higher ups. They compromise our future. They keep doing it, you know.
On many levels and layers of.
And if this could be released to a certain degree, you know, like where it wouldn't endanger ourselves with the bad guys, you know. But
right.
Basically to a certain level where suddenly we're, you know, the free energy is finally accepted. We all finally enjoy it. Everybody is. And, you know, when we got a little free energy device, if all of us has one, okay, it's our own wealth creator. We just can make it to work to do something, and it'll create money for us, you know. And this is giving everybody a mean to whatever idea you got, just put it to work. Here you got the power source, and whatever you got the idea behind and the intent, and you know, make it happen. You got at least a very good push there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with a technology I heard that it's called med bed, which is some sort of a sci-fi bed where you go under and basically rejuvenate your whole body in minutes. And this should be released soon. This is from the, you know, some of the stuff I read. Maybe it's my hope. I hope that, you know, that would happen. But I think it might be real actually. And it's some of these technologies that it's badly needed, and then it would totally transform our society in a blink. You know.
Yeah.
Make it.
That's what the Keshe Foundation works on too. Lots of people working on health units that have amazing results. And once that the field technology there gets worked out a little more, so that, you know, a lot of it now is experimenting. Some of the doctors will try these coils full of GANs. And
I've seen a lot of contraption, pretty amazing.
When they'll try a different arrangement and just see how people feel, you know, in different circumstances and so on. Once we know more exactly how to work with these fields, then it'll probably be, you know, very much like a 10 or 15 minute rejuvenation treatment every so often will become the standard kind of thing. Maybe we'll have these plasma chambers set up.
That's what we've been talking about. That's
one
some
in
years
every
ago.
block kind of thing, so that people can book them to use them. That would be quite interesting.
Rejuvenation chambers.
Okay, we've been talking up a storm here about a few topics that are interesting, and it kind of ties in with the big picture of the plasma technology and so on, quite directly actually. And I'd like to get any comments or questions that people might have on that. Sorry to hog the conversation here. Guy and I
Hello,
are on a
Rick.
roll. Hi,
Hello,
Mr. Chen. I think that's you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Next week I'm too tired. I cannot come, but I have do something for what I have learned inside. Can I share screen?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, before you begin, is there anybody else who wanted to speak on the topics that we brought up here? If you have a calling to say anything right now, or otherwise we can bring it up again later.
No, I share only the screen for show you something only.
Okay, go ahead.
Where?
We're seeing your
Oh
Facebook.
no! 1 minute. I am missing here. You see what I have do with next week. Someone have give this picture. You see, I have do with.
I think that's Mario's picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have throw it. You see, but there's some point I cannot identify because he wrote so badly. You see, there's some point I cannot identify.
Right. Okay, well, you'd have to talk with Mario about that, because I
know he this what I drawing. He have to put the name on only. What I can do for him? It's nice. I make it
yeah, I'm
godly.
not sure what we're going to do with that, because Mr. Keshe doesn't want to have anything to do with the whole spiral table of elements thing, but we can still discuss it. I know Mario would like to continue bringing it up and so on. I think it is important, but without Mario here, I'm lost on this.
Oh,
I'm here, Rick. I'm actually here.
Hi, Mario. I didn't see you there.
Yeah, I came in a little bit late. I'm sort of sorry I put this spiral here out because I thought it would be easier someone, you can have something in your hand to look at or whatever, because, basically, I was trying to, it's a tool that's a knowledge measurement tool, not a, it's just based on having understanding. I just put this as a spiral here because I thought it would help people to understand. But I see that it really doesn't help, and then maybe even is worse, But anyway,
the thing is, Mario, it may very well help certain people. Like there might be people that have been working with the spiral table of elements all their life and have really believed in it, and maybe there's something that you found in this arrangement that could trigger something for them, and suddenly it all falls into place. Oh, I didn't know that it was the E flat that goes in there, not the E. Now it all makes sense, or whatever. So, it's not for me to say. To me, it doesn't make sense because I'm not a musician, even though I know the basic kind of scale stuff and so on. I truly believe in the idea of the octave in terms of working with all dimensions and so on. That is the way that it works to get into higher dimensions and whatnot. But when it gets into, and I tend to be a mathematical kind of guy and so on, but I get a little bamboozled with this. It becomes overwhelming to me because I can't relate to the A, B, C's, and D's as notes and so on. To you, they have a significance, right? And to most musicians, well, all musicians, they would have that significance, and especially if they're, into this concept to start with. But for others, it goes right over the top of their head as well. And I think, someone like Mr. Keshe, perhaps he's not into or familiar with music so much. He's, pretty busy guy with all the other stuff he's doing in life. And perhaps he gets overwhelmed with this. And I know also that there was spiral, a table of elements that were involved in the earlier part of his life when he was a student as well, and he sort of got turned off to them then, and it kind of stuck with him, I think. So, there are other spiral tables of elements. That was one of the ways they wanted to make the tables of elements back in the old days, 100 years ago, and so on. But this is, it's a unique one, and the way you have it all connected together.
Yeah, the funny thing is, it's got a spatial orientation that is not relevant, and it can be misleading. In other words, this spiral right here, the way Mr. Keshe actually draws it, all of the elements would fit between, say, that first minute and that second minute.
Right.
There's no actual relationship to anything here, except where these lines are of the octaves.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The octaves.
Excuse me, Mario. Guy wanted to say something here, so let's just see what his input is.
I just wanted to say this. In my view, there's that little saying that I think everybody knows. It's the one from Tesla that says that the universe is comprised of. If you want to understand the universe, I think he says something like it's vibration, frequencies, and energy. I think he said.
Yeah, I think it's energy, frequency, and vibration.
Okay. So, in my view, Mario, it's an ounce of genius that you expressed there. We know that energy works in a spiral, and basically you connected the frequency and vibration to it. I think it's all gonna unify that understanding ultimately. It's that new science that actually merge maybe resonance and vibration and music. It's all the expression of, anyway, the way I understand the way science elaborates anyway beyond the visual scale, and all these frequencies on the higher frequencies or the lower frequencies, everything vibrates basically. Mm-hmm. And it goes into resonance, and then there's all these it's like your vortex there has all these things seems to be embedded in it. And in my view, maybe nobody knows the answer, but nobody's going to tell you that you're not onto something either.
I think I worked out, I think, another way of presenting this material in a way that gets away from this thing and gets away from the musical jargon. So I'd like an opportunity to try to explain it again in a much simpler way. So like Rick, you can not look at it as musical tones that you can't relate to, and really more directly understanding of the structure of the plasma. So I don't know if we have time, you want me to do it today or later?
Sure, I think that'd be great. And when I look at this figure, I don't mean to be desecrating it at all. It would be a perfect dartboard when you think about it. Hey, you're always trying to go for the center, going for the source, with your darts. And the way the colored lines now are set up with this, it is actually has little segments where you could score according to the spiral and so on. It's beautiful for that. It's perfect. You should patent it.
Periodic dartboard of elements, right?
Yes, right.
Mario, please can you complete for me the element I cannot see here on this picture?
Can you put your mouse on it there? Put your mouse on it, Mr. Chen, so we can see or can you use the annotate or something? There was
No,
some.
no. I have. I throw with this picture original. I put on the spiral and I make it, but there's some name I cannot identify.
Right, so can you circle them or somehow tell Mario what to look for there to identify it? We can see your mouse now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so show us which parts.
Like this one, I cannot see. What is this one?
Well, let's see.
Please.
Yeah, go back to your drawing, so because it's kind of blurred and I can't see where it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, show me again now. Where?
Here on this point, under the oxygen.
Okay, sulfur.
Sulfur. The S sulfur. Yes.
Yeah, SULFER, sulfur. And then if you follow that straight line up on the next row or the next spiral, zinc.
1 minute.
I'm pretty sure these atomic masses don't have any different isotopes. So I pretty much only plotted the first 40 or 50 elements. And even a few of those, like neon and argon, I had originally wrong when I went back and checked the isotopes, had to reposition them, and a few of these. So it's just to get a general idea. But it's an...
Well, that was one of the issues with the original spiral table of elements. It's like the octave.
This is sulfur, and the other one you say what this one?
Oh, that's it's MT. Is it's
I put this one.
Maritorium or something like that. I forgot the name. It's the highest level element. I just plotted that. I didn't check isotopes or anything. I just wanted to see how high all of the known elements are. And I noticed that none of them go beyond 8 octaves higher. In fact,
you see what I see on this row. You see some element in the same line, because they maybe have same frequency, not the same frequency, but the
no, the frequency, it should be along the line. If you have lithium, it's going across the not horizontal, but the angled lines. I have there; those are showing octaves. So lithium is an octave above lithium is nitrogen. An octave above nitrogen is silicon. An octave above silicon is iron. An octave above iron is cadmium. An octave above cadmium is radon. So see those things when they're octaves. I think I can show in a much simpler way so that you don't. So it's easier for not using the musical jargon. I think is maybe been a problem. So anyway.
Mario, if you use the musical jargon, you know, instead of putting it into letters like that, where people look at letters and they cannot really relate the way you do with music, like I'm a musician too, is that the best way to talk about it is by resonate the notes. If you actually show what is a B and let them hear what is a C, and let them hear what is a C minor, and then you hear the difference. Everybody's going to agree with you because they can hear the difference. Mm-hmm. You see?
Well, that's what the electronics guy was doing. He was actually playing the chemicals and all.
Yeah, it was a beautiful way of teaching there, you know?
Yeah, well, what would be ideal would be to have something, but the spiral is... There's got to be a better way to display this than this kind of a spiral. But nonetheless, what would be ideal is you click on it and hear the tone. Click on it and hear the tone.
Yeah, that would be
or what if you had an application, for example, like what we're looking at now, and lights would light up, and the different colors you have with the lines, along with the tone. So you'd hear the tone, see the element, and
maybe hear the harmonics between the elements, and you see the link between them, and
well,
you would
that's right.
You would hear your way.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean,
well, the thing about the harmony is that's something that I can measure accurately, but the colors are actual frequencies in the light spectrum, and people have done it, but I don't know about the accuracy of it. There's a specific, every tone has its own color, just so many octaves up, but it's a lot of octaves up, and you have to change the vibrations from minutes to seconds, and so I think you have to divide by 60 and then multiply and multiply and multiply and that kind of thing. There's a way to correlate the colors, but then there's but I think there's also the color band that we call the rainbow that we see is only 1 octave, but it's actually 7 octaves, but it shifts. There's something more to it than that, in other words. So I'm not sure there's
but with your system and the colors that we see here now, you could actually color code the octaves in effect, so you could see the effect of the octaves.
That's what I was doing.
But
those lines, the red line that shows the octaves of hydrogen. So you have hydrogen, an octave of hydrogen is helium, 2 octaves is oxygen. And I also put a red line down here on D, which here it's shifted. So I'm sorry, what your name is? Who did this? Chan? Or?
Mr. Chan.
Yeah, that red line should be where the yellow one is, because this D at measure, what is it, 20, I can't see it there, 23, that's the red line that connects to hydrogen. So where this calcium you have a yellow line where it should be a red line. See, that's why I put a red line there. And also the one should be a red line. See, so that a red line, its perfect fifth, which will link, is a red line, and the perfect fourth, which would link, which is where you have a yellow line, should be a red line. That's how I color coordinated it. See, because perfect fifths will link. So you have carbon is a fifth higher than oxygen. It links. Calcium is a fourth above hydrogen, and that has a link. See, so those are where I had them color coded. That's why, but the colors seem to have gotten washed out when I had to re-photo my picture, which is a year old, and then when I did some color adjustments and it washed out the colors, so you couldn't really see it. And basically, I tried to go from a red to a blue, kind of thing, but didn't really. It's not really relevant to the actual colors of the frequencies. It was just a way that you could easily see the line of oxygen is a red line, and then the two most closest linked elements lines. See?
Mario, when I throw this one, I think I cannot see what happened, but someone have music in his thinking, and he can identify the frequency and the harmony of this element. Maybe we can have something new.
I think I have another way to explain this an easier way to explain it, taking it away from the musical jargon thing, because if you're just looking at it, this is not music.
I know.
This is the structure of
the element.
It's the physics of a plasma in the layering that has the same ratios as a musical tone. So it's the physics of the structure of a musical tone and how the energies link or don't link layer to layer. So I think I need to give me another chance, Rick, to try again to explain it in a different way.
Yes, right. Perhaps with some linkage to the real world, so we can see examples from it that makes sense and so on.
Yeah,
I think
because
it's
so many of these the way that the
You
elements
see,
are.
you see this spiral. I haven't make a color because I know when I make a color, can be confused because I don't know which color for this which line. Why I do this one. This one for like a base of the throw, and this one with the color, and this one I will it's little more no because oh because the color I cannot I don't know, but I see it's very interesting. If someone can see it and he can recognize the frequency and the harmony of this stroke only.
Yeah, well, like I said, I had just put the colors of the lines so that the lines have
Yeah,
the
yeah,
octave, and then the fifths would have the same color. But then
yeah.
you also, but I'm only relating that to the A. It's a lot of problems with this.
Yeah, I know. The first time I throw it, if you want, I make it like hydrogen, this line for red, and the second one, which color, and the other self with the color. But until to 1 to 5, they have 5 color, and after 6 to 10, they have the other color.
Well, yeah, but okay. See, what's happening is A1 there, you have a red line that connects
Yeah,
all the octaves.
yeah,
A1 is E1 is a perfect fifth of A1. So
okay.
that one connects to
A1,
A1. So that would be
A1,
the
this
same
one.
color, whatever color you want. And then because E1 will link within the comma,
Yeah.
but A2 will link to E2. So whatever color you use for A2, you have to put the same color for E2.
Yes.
And A3 links to E3 and so on. And it goes right around the spiral like that.
Yeah, yeah. 1 minute. I want to throw what you want to do. Like A1, you take the red one. Like this one.
Well, I'm worried that you're spending a lot of effort here for something that's not really. I thank you, and I'm glad that people are interested in this.
Yeah,
because
yeah. Like this one, a red one, and the E1 is the same color.
Yeah, and that's the way it goes around the spiral, like that.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
whatever one color is, you use the same color.
Yeah, and A2,
so on.
A2, which color? A1 red, A2.
But see, we're spending a lot of time on this graph, as opposed to really spending the time on understanding what the graph is supposed to represent is much more important. And if you really understand how the intervals relate, you don't need the graph. All you need to know is the interval. You do it in your head. It's so simple. You really can do it in your head. And the graph becomes irrelevant, totally irrelevant. Like I said, the real spiral, all of the elements fit between the first minute A1 and A2, really, in the universe. So spatially, it has absolutely nothing to do with reality. The lines are just, it just works out with the 54 minutes, which is an interesting, I thought, I'm trying to blow away some of the myths that people have of stuff like 432 and absolute value frequencies and cycles of 12 and 13 and 9 and blah, 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 which really is the opposite direction of understanding. It leads people in the wrong direction. So I thought maybe I could use this to help say, see, it's got nothing to do with that. It's really about plasma. Everything's plasma, plasma, plasma. All that stuff, 432, has no meaning. It's irrelevant, right? And measuring any frequencies. can't do it. So really what I would like to do is try again. And, you know, fantastic if you want to, but putting effort into redoing this graph, I think it's a point of diminishing returns. The more effort goes into this particular drawing, the less knowledge you're going to get out of it, less and less and less. So, you know, no offense, and I'm glad that you're interested, but we need to get rid of this graph. We don't need it. Yeah,
Thank you, Mario, for being so straight about this. I thought you were quite attached to this one, but you know, it's whatever works. It's whatever works, and apparently it's not working so well right now. Maybe Mr. Chen can work with it a bit privately and come up with some sort of revelation with it that makes it work better. But I'd like to see. I'd rather put time in on what your new idea is there, Mario, and maybe we should move along with this.
May I just say something? Hey Mario, you ever you probably know the subject of cymatic, eh?
Sorry, of what?
Cymatics. Cymatics.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. No,
it's basically the structure of sound. When you apply sound frequencies and you just keep raising the frequencies, it on, let's say, sand or usually they got a resonated plate and they put salt or sand and they allow it to vibrate, and then it creates those structures, those shapes. It's called cymatics, the science of cymatics. So basically it's a structure of sound through the ether, no? Is it not?
No. See, again, that's looking at the physicality. You're not looking at sympathetic vibration, energy to energy transfer. See, this is again, anytime, it's a problem. We need to, it's like that golden ratio I showed last time. I don't think you were there. How when you look at the golden ratio, 1 + 1 = 2. But the golden ratio starts from a vibrating string, and they pluck the vibration of the string and you divide it in half. Each half is twice the vibration. So the vibration of this half plus the vibration of that half is equal to the vibration of the whole. So 1 + 1 = 1/2 when you're measuring energy. See, the length of the string you look at measuring, you get 1 + 1 = 2. But when you're looking at what they were actually measuring, the Greeks were actually measuring, was the vibration rates. So one cycle plus one cycle is equal to the vibration rate of the whole. It's half. So 1 + 1 = 1/2 when you're measuring the energy. Yeah, this is something really important that we're missing. So yeah, if I can, maybe I could share my screen.
Okay.
If it's okay, yeah.
Yeah, let's carry on here with the new improved version or whatever. Another
Hopefully.
concept.
I got to find a way to make it simple to understand, because it is really, really simple. It's just, you know, my teacher would say, it's something like this is happening. I'm going to open this up. You know, we always learn like this. We have information and we learn something new. We always have to connect it to what we know. We always have to connect it to what we know. And if I come along with something that's over here, you don't have anything relevant to connect it to. It's so far removed from the way you're used to thinking. It's not that this is complicated. It's just it's too hard to relate to, if I can say it like that. And that's the thing. So a lot of this is just, in a way, sometimes it's just first being, you know, exposed to it and then going, okay, that's a really weird, totally different way of thinking. And then again, getting exposed to it again. It's really what Mr. Keshe has been doing from the beginning. You look at the very first workshops, he's saying the same thing he's saying now, but it's so far-fetched then that it's now he says the same thing, and it's like he'll say it 100 times, and then he says it 101st time, and you go, oh, I get it. And usually the first reaction is, you know, hey, why didn't you say so before? But of course, he had to say it 100 times before you really go, oh, right? So I think a lot of this is like that. But okay, all right, first, if you look at the flower of life, I usually start with drawing a line. Now, put a dot in the center. When I choose the radius for the first set of circles, what? Somebody have? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, and stop me like you just did if I'm going too fast or you don't get something, because really got to get this. All right, I put a dot and then I open the compass to a particular radius, which is up to me, totally arbitrary. But then after that, the structure dictates itself. Nothing is arbitrary after that. In nature, this hole, this dot is actually a hole in the universe where the flower of life connects to the tree of life. I think of it as the stem. So the fields are radiating out from this central core. So now in nature, the radius of the first set of circles is dictated by the overall mass and the environment. It'll come out and it'll expand like a balloon and go this far and no farther, right? So in that case, the radius is dictated by the environment and the mass. In this case, it's just totally arbitrary. So I put the point of the compass here and I make my first circle here. Oh, sorry. Yep.
I'm not sure if you were drawing before now, but just starting to see the circle thing now. I see.
Okay, I just erased it because I did it wrong. Okay, so I'm going to have a circle here, and then another circle where it's a figure 8, right? That's a really bad figure 8. And then I'm going to have another circle like something like this. There, that's. Now, are you seeing this, right? Now, you see right here, that's the radius of the next set of circles. And it's dictated by the radius I've already drawn. I pick a radius.
Wait, I totally lost you on that. I don't know what you're saying. I can't take. Can you make it like 10 times bigger so we can see what the drawing is?
Yeah, okay. I have my line. I set my point at the center. I open the compass to, okay, I'll put it here, make it bigger. The point of the compass is here. So this is my radius. So I have a circle here. And then I put the point of the compass on the other side. And I have another circle, and I try to make it as close to a perfect figure 8 as I can, right? And there'll be 6 of these. And then you can use the compass to mark off the position to get them correctly done. But just to show you in a basic principle of how it works, there'll be another one that goes around like this, something like that. Now you see.
How did you draw that now? Where did you take the center from? Where did you put your compass to draw that circle, last one?
You mean the third one?
Yeah.
Well, I use the compass to create a 12-hour clock.
But how did you draw that third circle with the compass? I could see how you drew the first one, and you put the second one on.
You got an X, Y, but you got the Z. The Z factor. Maybe you need to show the 6 axis so you can show your flower of life.
Okay. All right. Look, what I will do is make one big circle around here. You can see my mouse, and then I mark off with the compass as a technique you can use to mark off a 12-hour clock.
There you
go. Something like this. Oops, I'm missing one right there. So I will have 12 straight lines passing through the center. And that becomes the radius. So that's where I marked it. So I have a circle here, a circle around this line, a circle around this line, a circle around this one, and I get my 12 circles. I'm really doing this badly, but you get the idea, or do you?
Well, I get the idea of what you're trying to do there now. It's getting a
all right, see? So that's how I get the radius of my 12 circles. But it's where the lines cross relative to the straight line. So I'll do it again here. I have my straight line, and I have one circle here, another circle here, whatever. But then there'll be another one that's the one that's right next to it at the mark to the 1 o'clock. If that's 12 o'clock, there's another line crossing here. So the radius of that will be something like this. See where this X marks the spot, right? That becomes the radius of the next set of circles. It's dictated by the radius of this, and they're all the same radius. I'm going around making supposedly equal circles. All right, does that make sense? You see that?
So this it becomes the dot becomes the radius. You mean it becomes the center of the next circle?
That's right. Sorry, that's right. It's the radius. So the next circle will be like this, and I'll have 12 of those. And then when I have another one that's like this, X marks the spot for the next one. That wouldn't be on that line. They continue to go offset in both directions. So if I have a straight line relative to the first line, this one will be somewhere here. The next one will be out somewhere like here. And the next one is going to be somewhere out here. It keeps getting offset in both directions. The next one will be, there's one here. So you keep getting the radius. It keeps expanding, but it's not along the straight line. It's not along the straight line. In other words, if I put if I have the radius from here to here, and then I put it at the 180-degree mark, then the radius of the next set of circles is twice that of the first set. And it's twice again if I'm going along straight line, 180 degrees. But you see where the dot is here is at an offset at what? 72.326 degrees or whatever. Yeah, so the radius is slightly smaller than the radius. It's slightly smaller than double the radius. So, and then the next one will cross somewhere over here. And again, what happens? You get an overall spherical structure here. You get another overall spherical structure here. These are all Coulomb's barriers. Another one here, where relative to a straight line, they all have a unique radius relative to the central core. So it's not 2 times, 3, 4 times, 8 times, 16 times. It's a unique. Every layer has a gap. Is
that in the phi ratio, like the 1.61?
That's it. That's it. It's the phi ratio. It's the Fibonacci sequence. But that's it. That's what it is. That's exactly right. Okay. And so that's the way it goes. Now I'm going to clear all that. So you see what I mean, right? Every one of these, it's a Fibonacci spiraling.
Yeah, we see what you mean, but we really need a decent diagram with this, with real circles and everything, because it gets so scribbly that we're following your voice more than the diagram. It's important to see the relationships,
Okay, well now let me do it a different way. So now instead of looking at it like this, actually, the Greeks, and Mr. Keshe always does it, you get a ball inside a ball inside a ball inside a ball inside a ball, and an octave of balls. And Mr. Keshe does it. He always numbers the layers from the inside out, and that's the Greeks did, and the medieval monks did it from the outside in. We still do it from the outside in now. I'm really used to doing it from the outside in. So I'm going to do it from the outside in here, right? I'm going to make a line. This line represents a ball inside a ball inside a ball inside a ball inside a ball, the 8th ball out, right? But I'm going to call it the first one. So I guess I got to do it like this. Well, let me draw the lines first. You have, think of it as like you're going up a ladder or a stairwell, right? You're going from the outer layer of the ball. It's a multiple chamber reactor where every chamber's got its specific ratio, the phi ratio or the Fibonacci ratio. So it's a multiple chamber reactor, and we need to measure in a general way the space gap, the gap between the layers. Okay, so now you have, imagine you're walking up steps. So you have the first step and you have the second step. So we call that a full step. The third step is considerably smaller. It's a lot lower. So we call that, I'm gonna see if I can, okay, I'll do that again, a little bit smaller. Now in a generalized rounded off sense, we can say this is a full step and that's a half a step. And then you get another, you're going up the steps, you notice, okay, that's a lot bigger, higher step. And then the next one is another higher step. So let me see if I do this right. A, B, C, D, E. The next one is going to be a half step. And then to G, it's a whole step. And then up to A, it's a half step. Okay, now, see, all we're doing, would be the central core. And so this is a ball inside a ball. You can see my mouse inside a ball, inside a ball, inside a ball. All I'm doing is giving a spatial way to easily see the gaps in each layer. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Rick? Anybody?
Yeah, but I don't see it yet as being
Okay.
the same as being that same phi relationship. But I guess you're going to get to that here. I can see this in terms of the notes, whole notes and half notes, or whole note steps and half note steps with the octave there. Yes.
Yeah. Well, see, again, because it
Like
It's very 2D, you know, the way you explain it, you're basically giving us the X, Y, but there's a third factor, is the three-dimensionality with it.
okay. All right. Look. Here's the first ball. So this is its layer. Here's the second ball. This is parallel to this layer. This is the third ball. This is the fourth ball. This is the fifth ball. This is the sixth ball. This is the seventh ball. And this is the eighth ball.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a ball,
Well,
it's a ball.
yes,
So it's
but
just the
it
line.
doesn't. For me, it doesn't make sense in terms of the previous drawing that you did with the flower of life. It should be like if the first step is 1, then the next would be 1.61, and you know,
Or
like
the
in
way a cell
ratio.
divide in 3D, you know, the way the geometry, the three axis, you know, where when you see a cell, when it divides in 2, that divides in 4, that divides in 8, and it's all into a, you know, the way a cell divide. Basically, there's a geometry, which is the flower of life too, but it's kind of evolving into complexity there, or it is petals opening it up. And basically the way you connect them all through the center, and you layer them with having different intervals in between the layers.
Okay, so I'm starting to see what you mean here, Mario. But
I'm gonna run out of room there, but so my top one can't line up as a perfect figure 8, but this is the way it will go.
Oh, okay.
See the flower of life? I'm running out of room there. I got to move this. See, this is what's happening. And then, right?
Yeah,
See the
yeah.
flower of life?
It would look very similar to, let's say, the field forces around the Earth, you know?
Plasma. Yeah.
Yeah. North,
See, and
south, you know, like between the magnets, let's say.
it's a magnet. That's what magnets are, plasma. See?
But
That's all this.
it's
Right?
a,
These are all balls, but I ran out of room on the top. It's figure eight inside a figure eight inside a figure eight. And there's actually another one here, and another one there, and another one there, and another one there. It just keeps going. There's 12 of these figure eights radiating out from the central core. Huh?
I thought
So, well,
I thought the center was six circles that does the center, no? Like of the flower of life?
12.
Okay, sorry.
Well, that's what Mr. Keshe said, the 12 apostles. The 12 tribes of Israel. See,
Mhm.
that's what that's about. Yeah, Mr. Keshe said it was 12. Yeah, usually, actually, Nicholas Chua was drawing out 6 circles, and Mr. Keshe kept calling it 12. And I realized the 12-hour clock. Oh, I can't erase that.
Maybe it's just as a stray thought. Maybe it's 6 deuterium, which would make 12 particles.
In a way, that's
you're
exactly
both right.
right.
Yeah,
In a
then
way.
it's the middle ground there that would kind of supply that geometry, it seems.
Anyway,
Yeah, but now look, here's the thing. You see how we're talking about, you know, it's a flower of life. This line is nothing more than a representation of the layer of the first ball. And then this one is the representing the gap of the second ball. And this is the third ball going down, going out. Is that right? Which each ball, it's when you have if you have 6 figure eights radiating out into 3D, the Coulomb's barrier where those cross creates a single Coulomb's barrier that it creates one sphere. Huh? Oh, yeah. Okay. I think I need to maybe. All right. No, you're not following that.
I'm still trying to. I know what you're saying,
Yeah,
but
the
I'm
12
trying.
fits into a sphere. You know, they positioned itself, and I can see it as a 12 sphere fitting into one.
Yeah, but the trouble is, if it depends on how big you make the first sphere. Like, for example, let me see if I can. Let me annotate for a minute here. Let me try to.
Well,
get
yeah,
this,
the first sphere.
So if you have a sphere that looks like that, for example, would that be the first sphere?
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
All right, look. Yeah,
Okay.
all right, but watch.
Okay.
I'm going to add to that. It's this. I'll just do 6 of them. Like that. This is where it gets. See where the line crosses here? The
Yeah,
line
but
crosses.
there's a way of letting Rick do it with only circles. Do you know how to do it?
Look. See where these lines are crossing? Those are poking holes in the universe and creating a baby here. And that's creating a baby here. And that's creating a baby here. And here. And all the way around, you're getting 12 babies that are creating, this field crosses, pokes a hole into the universe, feeds back. The difference between the fields that are crossing this one to that one, it's like the sawdust spraying out and creates a little baby flower of life that's basically a replica of the total. This becomes the Coulomb's barrier, which is the equivalent of a single sphere. It's made up of 12 of these energy fields coming out, crossing, creating 12 little baby satellites around the central core, right? 12 tribes of Israel. That's why it's a tribe. It's not just a single entity. It's a replica of the entire 12 babies that look exactly like the whole. Huh? Does that make sense now?
Somewhat, depending on where the first 6 come from to start with, and so on.
Out of the central core. They come out of the central core. And it's the fields that are going in and coming out that create the secondary cores. So this is the soul, and these are the, you want to look at the souls of the physicality, or the cells, you know? So there's a whole that comes out, comes back in, goes back in. But in the process, it crosses, and you get the essence of life, the basis of, what do you call it? The essence of the creation. You get life here. Life here.
Why does it cross where you determine it with the 6? Why not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or some other number? Why 6?
Well, when I'm drawing it, when you're drawing it, you just arbitrarily chose the diameter of the circle. In nature, that circle will come out of the central core and expand out. Its mass relative to the environment will dictate the diameter of this first set of circles. Yeah? In other words, the environment and the mass. There's a certain amount of mass coming out of the central core, and it can expand this far and no farther. So the mass and the environment dictate the size of the first set of circles. And then they dictate the radius or the diameter of the next set of circles. So the radius is here, and now you get another one here, and then you get another one there, all the same radius. And then here is a Coulomb's barrier. And that's the second core. And then so that becomes the radius of another one, and then another one. And where that crosses is another Coulomb's barrier, and that's the radius of the next one. And these ratios are always the same, no matter what the diameter is. The actual size differs, but the golden ratio still applies. It's the ratio. So you will get the structure of what I have here, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, with this distance in the gaps of the layers, always the same. No?
That's the part I have a trouble with, because I don't see the lines with the gaps having the phi ratio between them. I'm not seeing that as
because the phi ratio is measuring it around
like will these.
There is no absolute phi ratio. Here's the golden ratio. See if I draw a line. I put it in the center, and there's there, and there's there. Here's the phi ratio. The difference of this and that is equal to the difference of that. But it's not measuring the size, it's measuring the vibration. Now, if I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. I'm only measuring now the radius. Here's the golden ratio. Let's see. Boy, it's really hard to do this on this. These are all golden ratios. This is where the intervals come from. This is what the Greeks were doing. This is the study of the nature of the tones. It's really bad. What you get is a sine wave here. But look, the gap between the first layer and the second layer, and the gap between the second layer and the eighth layer, is equal to the difference of this to that. The difference between the third layer and the sixth layer is equal to the difference of that. It's always the same. So this is what they call the inversion of an interval. A to B is 2 letters, we call it a second. B to A is the inversion of it. It's 7 letters up, or that many layers. It's the measurement of the layers of, these are the harmonic overtones. In this vibrating string, Here's the octave. There's the harmonic of the G. There's the harmonic of the F, the E, the D, the C, the B, and then the octave lower A. Huh? The octave is the only one that divides the whole string. All the other ratios are a division of the half of the string. Huh? There is no absolute value for the golden ratio, except these. Always are the same. This here is actually the golden ratio. It's the harmonic overtone series. Yeah? No, Rick, you see not seeing it?
What do you divide into what to get the ratio that we know of the 1.61, etc.? I see.
That's when you take a rectangle, and then you measure a square relative to the full length of the rectangle.
Right. So what does that have to do with
nothing? Absolutely nothing. The Greeks weren't measuring sizes. They were measuring the frequencies. They're using a string, not a block.
Right. So
they're measuring here, putting a bridge here, dividing the string, plucking it here and plucking it here, and determining that this is a second relative to a seventh. Or they put the full length of the string, they measure it from here, they pluck it here, they pluck it here, they realize this is a 2-to-1 ratio. This is if you do it again, you divide a string into 3, you get a 3-to-2 ratio. That's the fifth. If you divide, the third is a 5-to-4 ratio, I think. It's that's the harmonics. The golden ratio is the relative harmonics, the ratios of the harmonic overtone series. We looking at the golden ratio as a visual measurement to measure physical size. But if I take a string like here, that's that long, and I tie it off here, and I take the string that's this long over here, and I tie it off here, yeah? And I have a way, I have it stretched, but I have a way, because it's tied off here, where I can take this half of it, I could tune this to this, from here to here at two cycles. This one, if it's just stretched like that, might be 3 cycles or whatever. But if I tuned up the pressure of it, like I could get a tuner on there, a tuning peg, and I could tighten up the string's tension to where it's in tune with this one, then that has 2 hertz or 2 whatever. Yeah? So 2 plus 2 equals 1. It's still a golden ratio. It's no different than this. You say, oh, no, it's not. It's much longer. It's not the measurement of the length. It's the measurement of the vibration. It's the energy measurement, not physicality measurement. See? This is something, again, when you always get it in the inverse every time. No? Not seeing it.
No, I'm having trouble with following along here. Do other people see what he's talking about? And can someone else explain it to me so quickly in some sort of way?
Nobody else understands that.
Anybody? Okay. Did anybody understand it? That's here.
Yes. Somehow, yes. You can manifest any element out of the energies.
Guys, you see the pyramids or the Mayans or all the structure when you see a big rock and between it a small rock. It's not the same shape. It's not the same angles. And you see how they put it there, how they there's no one shape in this building. It's all different shapes and all coming together in a way. What's Mario saying here, they are measuring the energy. That is, I think this is the correct thing to say.
Yeah. It's if you're looking at the golden ratio as being an absolute mathematical value.
Well, let's have a look at golden ratio for a minute here. I'm just trying to bring it up in Wikipedia so we have
I'll
something
stop
that
sharing.
we can, so we know what we're discussing here. Let me share briefly. Okay, let me make it bigger and get set up in live stream. Okay, this is the Wikipedia golden ratio. Let me see. Here we go.
See, in mathematics does not apply to plasma. You can't use mathematics to understand workings of the plasma. And you know Mr. Keshe said that. So every time we try to use mathematical formulas, we get inverted. We're looking at the wrong thing. See, if you notice, the down here it says other names. Somebody that there's this thing here. It's a ratio. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
Music. There's one little section there.
No, go back up, Rick. Go back up to the top. Look at the very top where it explains that it's a ratio that applies to any value as long as A plus B equals C. A is to B, A plus B is to A as A is to B. That's all the golden ratio means. See? It doesn't have to be this proportion. This is the thing, we get stuck on the visual presentation of it, but you apply A plus B over A equal to A over B equals this golden ratio.
Yeah, but that proportion, Mario, is exactly 1.618033.
No, only if you measure it on a rectangle versus a square. Only that measurement.
No, but that would be a two-dimensional but you can demonstrate that in 3 dimension too. And you know, it's like the spiral, basically. It's the way nature mimics spirals.
Look. Hold on. Look.
It's a perfect spiral.
Look. A plus B is
the whole
over A. That's the golden ratio. A or B.
No, where's your A's and B?
Where's the third?
Wait a minute. Where's A, B, and A and B on your diagram?
Plus B equals C.
Okay. In this case, A and B are equal in length.
Over C, which means you divide A from it's a division. So this is 1, that's 1, you get 1/2. If A is 1 plus B is 1, that's 2, then A is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, half of that is 1. Or
right.
1/2, 1 plus 1.
So you get 2. You don't get the golden ratio. You get 2 in this case, right?
No, if this is 1 plus
if
1.
What is the this? Wait a minute. What is the this you're talking about? I don't see what you're talking about when you say
look
this.
up here where you have A plus B over A. So
where are you pointing? I have
right here.
Right here. Oh, there. Okay. Sorry, I was on the other side of the screen. Got it.
Okay, let me erase that. So this is the golden ratio. A plus B over A.
Right. But in your case, it's 1 plus 1 over 1, which is 2 over 1, which is 2.
No. It's 1 plus over 1/2.
where's the one? A is 1, B is 1, right? So you each.
Yes.
Okay, so A plus B is 2 over A, which is 1. Over A, which is 1, which is 2 altogether, not phi.
Okay. So
it's not the golden
okay.
ratio. That's not the golden ratio. So that's where I'm confused.
Okay.
So there's some
All right.
there's some
Look
way
at
of transforming this, but I'm not
over
getting
A.
it.
Look at it the other way. A is what I'm calling C here, the vibration rate of the full.
Well, you can't call A C and call A A.
Well, they're calling it A here. A plus B is over A. So you have to divide A from A plus B.
Yes, and in your case, A is equal to B. That's what I'm saying. It's equal. In their case, A is not equal to B. See, it's a golden ratio. The golden ratio, A does not equal B. In your case, A equals B with this circumstance. Therefore, if you say A is 1, then B must be 1. If you add A and B together, you get 2.
No. A can be any given number. B can be any given number. And then over...
But in your case, the number is the same for A and B with the string cut in half, correct?
Okay, but if I do it this way, if I just use half of the length of the string... Okay, wait a minute. Well, what happened here? I lost my string. Okay, let me do it. It applies to any ratio. It applies to any ratio. All right, if this is my length of the string, it's equal to actually half of the length of the radius. All right, if I have a step here and then to here, I measure from here to here is equal to this. So the vibration rate of this plus the vibration rate of that is equal to the difference of these. It applies to any number. It doesn't have to be this. It's any ratio. If that's A to B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Okay? A to B is a second. The inversion is a seventh. The difference between those two is an octave. A to C is a third. The difference between those is a sixth. The difference between those is equal. The inversion of that is a sixth. The difference of those is an octave. That's how it works. That's what the golden ratio really is. These are all golden ratios. See? You get stuck in absolute values. There's no absolute values in the universe. Everything is a ratio. Everything has to be measured.
It is a ratio, and that's the thing. You were saying it's like you can have thirds and fifths and so on, which is not the same ratio as the golden ratio, so far as I can see. That's where I'm confused.
Well, it is the golden ratio. A plus B over A. A here plus B here is equal to the difference of those. The octave. We're dividing a string.
But it doesn't talk about any C there. It doesn't talk about the difference between them. It just talks about the relationship between the two.
Well, what is a mathematical formula? A plus B is a sum, and then divided by A underneath it. It's a division. It's the dividing. So A plus B over A. It's the division of it. It's always the golden ratio.
But your A and B are both variable lengths, though, in this case. It can be
that's why you don't put a number. That's why they use a letter, because you could put any number there.
But your ratios are going to be way different. If you're, for example, what about the one that vibrates in the center of all this, the center part of the string? where both parts are equal. A equals B then. So you have 2 over 1 is the ratio.
That's right.
Not 1.61,
Well,
etc.
No, that's right. That's right.
So it's not the phi. It's not the golden ratio.
You think the golden ratio only applies to this particular mathematical formula where a square into a rectangle. So if it's not that mathematical formula absolute value, it's not the golden ratio. But this is the golden ratio. And this is the application of the golden ratio in this configuration. But this is, if this is 1 plus 1, then that means I have a cycle of 2 cycles on either side. And then the length of the vibration rate of the whole is dividing 1 from that. So it's 2 cycles, 2 cycles. It's 4 cycles. The length is 2 cycles. If it's 1 cycle plus 1 cycle, the length will vibrate at a half a cycle. If it's 8 cycles and 8 cycles, the length will be 4 cycles. This is why Pythagoras, without counting frequencies, knows that an octave is twice the frequency. And that's the ratio of a fifth is 3 to 2. That's where the ratios come from.
That's not the same ratio as the golden ratio.
It is.
3 to 2.
It is.
3 to 2 is different. 3 to 2 is not the golden ratio. That's what I'm saying.
Rick, three parts on this side and 2 parts on that side is equal. The difference of those is equal to the whole. It's all the golden ratio. It's a ratio, not an absolute value mathematical. That's just one application of how the golden ratio applies to this.
Just go with nature, and read what it says. You see in there. There's many different interpretations. You want to talk about
yes, that? read where it says there, arrangement of parts such as these. There's a thing there that says it outright, that it's a ratio that applies to any measurement where A plus B over C.
It's not over C. It's over A.
Well, over A.
It's
That's
over
right.
A. That's right. It's not C. A is A. You can't change A to C, and it's called the golden ratio.
Okay. Okay. A plus A over, or A plus B over A. A plus B over A always is the golden ratio. It's not. It's. Ah, boy. Okay.
A equals 1 and B equals 1, and they're over 1, then you have 2. 2 is not the same ratio as 1.618. That is where I have a difference. And then you say it's 3 and 2.
It's only the ratio. It's the ratio of a square in a rectangle. It only applies to this particular measurement. It's fixed.
No, it applies to, for example, the way a spiral goes. This spiral shape, for example, which is way different than the spiral you showed with the octaves, which is a regular spiral.
Same one. No, it's the exact same spiral.
No, this is a different spiral.
Yeah,
this is like an Archimedes spiral or whatever. It's got the golden ratio built into the spiral.
But they all have the golden ratio.
Not if it's a regular spiral. No, it does not.
What do you mean a regular spiral?
Like the one that Mr. Chin showed us. That's a regular spiral. It's got an even distance all the way around.
It's not a regular spiral. It's a spiral that I drew where I didn't follow the golden ratio, because you see, if I followed the actual opening up expansion of the fields the way I showed you in the Flower of Life, it only goes out 4 layers. You see how big this Fibonacci sequence is? it can only go out 4 layers. I can't get even 4 spirals. See?
Right, because it's a regular spiral rather than a logarithmic spiral, and that's what I'm saying is the difference with the difference with the phi ratio is it increases logarithmically rather than with regular distances between the lines that you were showing us with the octave before. And this is what I don't understand.
Let me share my screen, and I'll show you the Fibonacci spiral if I can. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Or I'm gonna have to.
And by the way, if there's anybody that's listening there that can help clarify this issue and enlighten me as to what I'm missing in this picture, and they might be doing that. I don't have my live stream up right now. I'll have to just get that going too.
Okay.
See if there's any comments about that. Let me try to tie in.
Golden. This is okay. I got to share screen
because this is important to try to clarify. And
there's the golden ratio.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm not. Okay, now I've got your screen up here. Let's get it up for everybody. There we go.
So you have something like this. That's the golden ratio. Same ratio. See it?
No, I see you jumped from one circle to another circle, but it's not a regular spiral at all there. It's got a lot of irregularness to it. It's not a logarithmic spiral. I can't see how you get a logarithmic spiral by connecting the dots on this figure. Maybe it's possible, but it doesn't seem like it.
No? You don't see it? I'm not connecting it the right way. Let's see if I can do this better.
I think
if I start here and then I go, I think to here, and then I got to go to here, and then I got to go to there. That's the actual. You got to go from here to the 12 o'clock. You got to go out. Oh, I see what it is. Okay, let me clear that.
Something like that.
Here it is. Okay, go to here, then to there, then to there, then to there. That's about as far as you can get on this, because it's a huge expansion. Something like that. I'm still not doing it the right way. It's the Fibonacci spiral. It's definitely it. I've drawn this out 100 different ways, 100 different times. It's not seeing it, but it's there. No question. Okay, anyway. Wow, okay. See, you're looking at it as a mathematical formula instead of a ratio. A ratio is a ratio, not a fixed value. As soon as you put a fixed value on something you call a ratio, and it's no longer a ratio. 2 to 1 has to be, 4. No, it doesn't have to be 4. It's 2 to 1.
Well, 2 to 1 is a ratio, which is different than 4 to 1, correct? 2 to 1 is not the golden ratio. 3 to 1 is not the golden ratio. 10 to 1 is not the golden ratio.
Okay. It's not 1.6111, whatever.
Well, that's the golden ratio. No, that's the whole thing about it.
That's using the ratio to measure a square in a rectangle. It only applies to
No, it applies to plants. It applies to petals on a plant. It applies to a pentagon. It applies to certain things in triangles, all in this article here. And it's part of the Fibonacci sequence, which approximates the same spiral of the logarithmic
spiral. Or the Mendel
spiral.
brought the fractals, the fractals geometry, which is the self-repeating pattern, or the spiral, basically. It's all linked. But a Fibonacci, the golden ratio is the perfect equation, and the Fibonacci is the best way nature replicate that perfection. Basically,
Through
it's
doubling.
it's a through
Is
through
it doubling?
using itself. It's
Okay, this is the common thing that we probably
It's
have to
1
connect,
plus
that I need
1.
to connect here.
equal 2, and then you use 2 and the 1, which give you 3, and then you
That's-
use the 2 and the 3, and it'll give you 5.
Yeah, that's
And
what
then
I'm
the 3
kind
and
of
the
missing.
5.
I'm missing that.
So you
somehow
always
with
use the 1, not the
like,
whole.
if we
but-
could connect what you're saying, Mario, with the way nature works with this doubling process, and the way that adds up, maybe we can make the connection between the two, because the way nature works is the same as the way the octaves work. Correct? Isn't that the basic
the way the
idea that
nature,
we're at here?
the way nature works is the harmonic overtone series is natural. It's the same spiral. Everything's based on that. A conch shell and the harmonic overtones on a string have to be the same ratios. It's you guys who are looking at the matter measurement and not the vibration measurement. You're saying it physically is 2 times 3, or 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 5. It
No.
physically can be represented in that way. But when you're measuring energies, that does not really give you the correct ratios.
Well,
That-
I'm talking about
same-
say something like the growth of cells, or the growth of life, the way life grows. If we start off with one cell, like you were saying, Guy, I think it's the same thing, right? The one cell splits off into 2 cells, but then or the one cell splits off into another cell, which gives you 2. The 2 then split off into 2 more each, which are
Which is
4 there, plus the 2 original, which makes it 6, and so on.
the
There's
exponential, which become exponential. It's really there's a curve to it.
right, yeah. There's more of a curve to it. It's
Well, it'll be a Fibonacci. It'll be the harmonic overtone, because everything is that. This is what I'm saying. You're not realizing that all of these mathematical formulas that we use now didn't exist before the Greeks. They did not use the measurements of this 1.611, whatever it is. They used the division of a string. Same as they used a compass. That's what they used. The Greeks used a monochord to get those mathematical formulas. They're not measuring the physical difference. We are. Eric Dollard said, if you want to know what's going on, you have to go back and find out what they thought they were doing then, not what we say they're doing now. That's what you're doing. You're looking at what we say it is in Wikipedia. It's the length by the length, but that thing. But they were plucking a string. If you pluck a string, you get a completely different understanding of it. And those ratios of the first step to the second step relative to the octave is the golden ratio. It's the A plus B over A gives you the length of the vibration of the full string. That's why that's the root note of the interval. It's the difference of those is the root note of the interval. This is the fundamental understanding of the essence of the creation. When you have 2 entities interacting, it's the same ratio as the division of the string. So the inversion of it depends on what its ratio is. When you have A plus B over A, then that one. If you have the inversion of that, then you get A plus B over A is the inversion of it. So that one of the notes becomes the root note. Let me see if I can't get you to see this again. You're not thinking in terms of what they were thinking. They did not start with mathematical formulas and then, invent the harmonic overtone series. They started with the harmonic overtone series and invented the mathematical formulas to explain it. And that's where the golden ratio comes from. When they were building the Parthenon, they were building a harmonic resonance chamber. The pyramids are based on the same ratios. It's harmony. They believed in the music of the spheres, not a mathematical formula called 1.611. That has no relevance. That's a result of the understanding. Look, again, if I have a string here, I got to do that better. I have a length of string. When if I want to, why am I getting the wrong thing here? Okay. This is actually half of the length of the string, because the string actually goes all the way out to there. When I have these, here's a G, here's a B. I'm not sure if I can do this right. The interval from here to here, we call it A to B. The inversion of that, we call it B to A. So A to B is 2 letters a second. B, C, D, E, F, G, A, we call it a seventh. Okay? So now A plus B equals A. Okay? If you do the inversion of that, the G, I have the G here and this.
You totally lost Guy and I. Guy is a musician, and you totally lost him too. So
No,
go back to what
see, let's say you take your whole and then you divide it into your harmony. And then it would divide itself into, your notes there, isn't it?
See, whenever you get 2 notes sounding at the same time in the intervals, you always get a third note. You're not really looking at that. You're not understanding the essence of creation.
The thing about it is you get the third note that resonates because you've got the...
the third one is in the harmonic
here.
with the
You've got because there's a loop here and here and here and here. Whatever it be 8 altogether, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, basically.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So this would be 7. That's why they call this. Is that why they call it a seventh? Because you've got normally these would vibrate at a 7-to-1 ratio.
No. You're measuring the layers. This is actually, if this is A, and this is G, and this is F, and this is E.
Well, and then you totally lost me again. I don't know what you're talking about there.
Okay.
Let's look at a string first. Look at a string, and you talked about cutting it in half, basically. So you have this vibration, which is, you can have the whole string vibration.
2-to-1 ratio. 2-to-1 ratio.
Wait, yeah, okay, so 2-to-1 ratio, and then you can also have a string vibrating, like in this way, so that it's
That's a 4-to-2 ratio. It's an octave.
4-to-1 ratio, right?
So it's a 4-to-2 ratio, which would be an octave above the center, or a 4-to-1 ratio, which is 2 octaves above the center. So as long as you're multiplying or dividing by 2, you always calculate octaves.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So the fifth. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The fifth is where's the fifth? A, B, C, D, E. Okay. So now, crap. So I have, let's see, A. So you're dividing the string now like this, right? So what you find is, if it was done in the right way, is you've actually divided the string into 3 parts. So 3-to-2 ratio, because it's half the length of the string, is the 5th. You're measuring the position of the layers. That's how you measure plasmas. It's the only way to measure plasmas. And the frequencies take care of themselves. You're measuring the position of the layers. It's the 4th layer out, gives you the division of this half by 3. But instead of doing the math,
lost you. Don't know what you're saying there.
If I multiply the vibration rate of this octave, this half a string, is an octave above the whole string. If I multiply that by 3, then I get the interval we call the 5th, because it's dividing the string into 3 parts.
Which is actually 6 parts altogether when you look at the whole string, right?
That's right. That's right. So it's a 3-to-2 ratio, or 6-to-1. That's right. But the vibration rate is 3 times the vibration rate. But these are layers of a plasma field. And we measure how many layers in. These are all the harmonics. When we measure how many layers in, it's the 5th layer. So you measure the architecture. So you measure the architecture. It's the 5th.
Why is it the 5th layer? Where were the first 4? We have
the first one. Here's the first one. There's the second one.
Wait a minute. Besides these arbitrary lines you're putting in, I don't know why they're there. So is the first one the big string that we see, the big loop we see at the bottom down there? And then the second one would be cutting the string in half. And then the third one would be cutting it into quarters.
No.
The fourth
if
one
you do that, that's not what actually happens. If you divide the string there, you will get an octave. But there are actual, the field itself, if you just pluck the whole length of string, you get this. If I do this right, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. You get 8 layers of a spiral. Each of those layers is a Coulomb's barrier. Each of those Coulomb's barriers are what we call the harmonics. So if I pluck the string really lightly here, bing, I get an octave above the whole. If I pluck the string right here, I get ding, that's very faint, but I get a note we call a G. Its ratio is, I don't even remember, 13 to, I think it's like, what is it, 7 to 6, or it's an odd number. But it's the note we call a G. This is where you position the frets on a guitar. Okay, these are the Coulomb barriers of the field. Huh? See, it's not, and it's Fibonacci spiral. Say, oh, well, it doesn't look like it. Well, it is, because everything is that. This is what the Greeks used to invent what we call phi. Came from a string. It didn't come from a mathematical formula. The mathematical formula came from this. See, we're looking at what we think they're doing then. You're not looking at what they thought they were doing. This is, so-called Pythagorean tuning. Well, it wasn't Pythagoras' tuning. It's just that he's famous, and so we call it that. But this is the ratios of the tunings of a plasma. It's a spiraling out of fields. Huh? No, still don't get it. And so
I wanted to find out what a 5th was, and I don't know what a half and a quarter and then a 5th and a 6th and a 7th and an 8th. I don't understand what relationship it is with the string. It's
okay. All right, look. Look, the ratio from the field spiraling. If this is A, then this is the B. That's the C. That's the D, that's the E, F, G, and there's another one, smaller one in the center. So we always count from the outside in. How many layers up do we go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the E. If you count from the inside out, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a fourth lower than this note, a fifth higher than that note. It's actually a division times 3, but where you put the, when you divide the string, you're measuring it from here to here. So it's a fifth, it's inversions of fourth. If you pinch the string off here and you had it pinched off here, you pluck it here, you'll hear a fifth, plug it here, you'll hear a fourth. That's the real golden ratio. And it's the measurement of the vibrations. See, we need to measure energy, not physicality. I can change the length of the string and tighten it up and get the same ratios and it looks completely different. How? Because it's the energy, not the physicality. So from A to B is a second. So you get a figure 8 that goes like this. It's uneven. So this is, I forgot what the ratios are of this because they don't really matter. It's the interval that matters. And so a second on this side, if you pinch the string off and you pinch the string off here, you'll hear an interval we call a second here and a seventh there. If you just push, right? So this ratio is still the golden ratio, but it's the interval of what we call a second on this side and a seventh on that side. And so the difference of these two is equal to the whole, right? And so, and what its vibration rate is a certain ratio times the whole. And we just, I don't think in terms of, a second up is all I need to know. What's its frequency or what's its ratio? You don't apply it that way. These are the layers. The reason this is an interval there is because there's a Coulomb's barrier there.
Well, how do you know to go there? You do it audibly. You hear the difference. That's
yeah,
why
sure, sure. If you put your finger really lightly here, you'll go. You'll hear it. It's really the weakest one. Really hard to hear. And if I do it the other way, I go up to a G. Oh crap! I lost my thing. If I go the other way, if I go to the G layer, I go the other way, then that's a seventh and that's a second. So I pluck the string here, I'll hear an interval of a second. And if I pluck the string here, I'll hear the interval of a second. And they're all based on the ratio from this fundamental. Because it's the frequency. You can actually put your finger over there, ping, hear a G, ping, hear an F, ping, hear an E, ping, hear a D, and so on. Now, that's
right,
where they got those numbers from. And it's a complicated math that you can't use. If you think you can understand, what did Mr. Keshe say about that? Scientists say, give us mathematical formulas to validate your theory. What does Mr. Keshe say about that? If you need mathematical formulas, you don't understand the workings of the plasma. This is exactly what you guys are doing wrong. You're trying to equate the math, not a ratio. It's just the difference of this plus this is equal to the one. If this is A and that's B, then the difference of this is equal to A. If the length of this is a seventh, if that's A and that's B, then the difference is equal to A. What does that mean? If I have an A to a G, relative to the overall length of the string, the difference is equal to A, which is, in this case, the note B, a second. If this relative to this, that means I get two B's and one A.
No, see, this is not working at all. You're mixing up musical A's and B's with the A's and B's of the formula.
No,
Which
I'm
have
talking
nothing
about
to do with it.
all right.
I'm totally confused now. I'm totally confused. This is
okay.
I think I need to educate myself about the Fibonacci sequence and how it relates to music and how all that relates. I need to educate myself because I'm getting nowhere with this, actually, Mario, and I just don't understand.
If you try to use mathematics to understand this,
I'm not wanting to use mathematics. I'm willing to use proportions and relative. You know, the
well, it is proportions.
proportion.
It is proportions.
Yes,
Rick.
and we're working with
Try
all these different
Look,
proportions.
If I have this, this is a seventh.
A seventh of what? A seventh of the distance of the string?
No.
A seventh of what then? What do you mean a seventh? Where was the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth? And now we're
all right.
Show me them. Show me the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth and seventh.
I'm counting. Listen, I'm counting the Coulomb's barriers. I'm counting the Coulomb's barriers. Those are the energy fields. So if this is one energy field, there's another Coulomb's barrier. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, this is way out. 5, 6, 6. All right, these should be not in a, and there's the 8th one. I'm counting Coulomb's barriers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Coulomb barrier in is the interval we call a seventh. One Coulomb's barrier in is the one we call a second. That's what I'm counting.
Okay.
Because that's the energy plasma energy, right? Makes sense? Okay. So A plus B equals A, the total length. So that means I have this plus this gives me a third note, and it's a seventh. So it's the lower note. If I have the inverse of that, if I count a second, and then I count up 7 layers this way, then we have the inversion of that. So this one's A. Well, no, you got to go the other way around. A plus B if you're doing the inversion. So if I count like this, A plus B equals A. That's what it is. And it gives you the inversion of the interval. And that is a vibration rate that's equal to the difference of those. It's just, what Isaac Newton did the math, where he took the vibration rate of a second and the vibration rate of another one, and he did the math, and he calculated this very thing. It's a measurement of the Coulomb's barriers, the harmonics. Those Coulomb's barriers are the harmonics. No, not seeing that.
No, like I say, I need to educate myself in a different way because I don't. As soon as you say a seventh, then I get confused. If the string is divided in equal parts, but you're not saying.
Not equal.
Well, that's what you're saying. They're not equal parts, but all the vibration of strings is based on equal parts. That's what I'm saying.
No,
you take your string, you divide it in half, you have that note, and then there's if it's in 4, that's also a resonant harmonic of it's an octave difference. The string vibrates in 4 places instead of 2.
But the divisions are in divided, but you're not dividing by 3. And you're not dividing.
Well, yes, you can have a string divided into 3 parts, right? Like that.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
And so
or you could have it in 5 parts. Is that a fifth?
That would be a third.
Wait a minute.
So
5 parts is a third, but 3 parts is
right.
what? What's 3 parts then?
It's a fifth.
Oh my God! So that's why I'm totally friggin' confused because
I do. Can I say something?
Yes, please.
For me, that I understand everything. For me, just is something irritating, and that's you are speaking about notes which our ears can hear, and that's a special frequency area which we can hear. But there are other sounds which humans cannot hear because they have another frequency area. And
yeah, that's right. Of course, it applies to everything. Physicality.
Well, the thing about it, we're not talking about frequency here. We're talking about ratios. We're talking about taking any string. It can be a centimeter long. It can be 2 miles long. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that the whole string can vibrate, or a resonant frequency. It can be half the string can vibrate, so that both halves are vibrating, like more like this actually. They each vibrate. There's a node in the middle which doesn't actually vibrate, right? Then
no, it's the central core, Rick. It's the central core. That's an opening a hole into the universe. It's a living entity. It's literally a field coming out. It's a flower of life. It's doing this.
Well, the thing about it is, when you have the string in 3, that rule goes out the window, because your center is then here, and that's not where the nodes are.
No, because when you're dividing it into 3, you're only dividing half of it.
Why would you do that?
Because it's 3-to-2 ratio. Because it's the division of the octave. See, again, you don't use the ratios, you don't use the frequencies, you count layers.
Well, you have to be able to see what it's doing on the string to have some sort of real world
it's doing
thing.
This, it's spiraling out of energy.
But what is the string doing? That's what I'm saying.
The string is vibrating, and it's creating an energy vortex that's spiraling out in 8 layers. And as it gets down,
what we're already talking about, what we're already talking about, I have lost it. It's like it's jumping from one point to another to prove, to be able to, some certain of understanding is reflecting the truth of one part of understanding. And yes, it maybe is true. And talkings would never end, would never be able to, we can never finish the conversation. It's impossible. What we can talk is just like, I don't think any the understanding of the notes, but unless we can play something that resembles of all this understanding and just gives out all the joy, yeah, that's when we can actually talk about it in a very big joy. That's what I think. And what I believe is all the things have been talked on the platform last week, this week, before, and the years before. Doesn't matter, all true, all superbly true. That really, I think many other agencies, many other understandings, many other people has to listen to this and get the joy, get the understanding, there's something really nice going on here, which it jumbles up with the understanding of our teaching, with Mr. Keshe's teaching, and it comes down, up and down, and we balance it, and lovely. What I think is, it's all amazing. It still is on its way to, if you're not going to achieve it altogether, it doesn't really matter whether I am or he or she achieved it on their own. We need to do it on our own. It's going to be so much of a pleasure that is going to bring us towards individually to a wonderful place. That's what I think. I mean, I'd love to speak wonderfully, as well as
Alper, I don't know if this is being helpful right now. I'd like to get some understanding with this, not some further confusion.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rick.
I simply wanted to see what the string was doing when you're talking about a seventh, and why it's called a seventh instead of a sixth or fifth
because
or an
because
eighth
you're
or
not
something.
measuring frequencies, and what you're measuring is, look,
Are you
like
measuring a seventh of the string? Is
no.
What is
you're
this?
you're measuring the harmonics.
The seventh
All right, look.
Harmonic.
All right, let me do something here.
But you just have these.
No. Look. Let me try this again.
I don't know if we should even be going through this again, because we've already been through it so many times, and I still don't get it. That I don't know if.
All right, look.
Let's
see if I can get this cleared up. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Need one more. No, it's just there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have to. All it is what everything is. It's this. This is the center of the full length of the string. So this field is doing this. It's going like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, and there, and there. Okay, it's done badly. But you see, the ratios of this spreading out of these layers are actually Coulomb's barriers. So you don't measure, you're measuring how many Coulomb's barriers in it is. If this is the first Coulomb's barrier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the fifth Coulomb's barrier. That's the interval we call a fifth. If this is the second Coulomb's barrier, we call it a second. That's the third, call it a third. That's the fourth, sixth, seventh, eighth, the center one. Okay? That's what we're counting. We don't care about frequencies. We don't care about how it's dividing the string and how many multiples of the vibrations it is. We don't care about that. We only care about the interval.
So what is a Coulomb barrier?
What?
What is a Coulomb barrier that you have so many there?
Oh, it's this. It's the flower of life.
No. What is a Coulomb barrier?
What do you mean?
Look up the definition, please.
The Coulomb's barrier is the energy barrier made from the 12 children. And this is a Coulomb's barrier. The flower of life.
Do you have Coulomb's barrier within the plasma?
Every layer is the Coulomb's barrier. Every layer.
Please look up the definition of Coulomb barrier. I finished.
I don't care about the mathematical. Coulomb's is the guy who counted electrons. To me, it has no meaning. The flower of life shows where the essence of creation is, where those 12 dots poke a hole into the universe. It's a drilling into a piece of wood. The sawdust that comes out creates an energy field here, a baby, 12 babies. There's a Coulomb's barrier. There's a Coulomb's barrier. That's the real Coulomb's barrier. That guy came up with what he calls it. It's his understanding based on, it's a PhD of stupidity, what Mr. Keshe called it. It's just as correct as photosynthesis. We have to look at energy. Stop looking at this other electrons and counting of this and math. You can't understand it that way. Mr. Keshe, that's not me saying it. It's Mr. Keshe saying it. We're looking at trying to count the math. How many vibrations is it? This and that. If you're looking at it that way, you can't understand anything. I've been a musician my whole life. Never count frequencies. Never count frequencies. I count the layers. A to B. Second. What's his frequency? I don't know. Who cares? Has no meaning. When I'm manipulating the energy fields of music, I'm only counting. I'm going from a first to a fifth, a third to a seventh. That's the only way. Yeah, that's the only way. And what, you know, what key? If tuned to 432 or 446 or who cares? Has no meaning because it's the ratios of these intervals. That's everything in the universe is based on the ratios. I wish I could read from Hindemith's book. I should probably. He explains it pretty well. It's the music of the spheres. This is a sphere, that's 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 a sphere. Gives me a scale, harmony. That's all it is. That's all it is. And so you go up from the outside in, from the first layer to the second layer is a second. From the first layer to the third layer is a third. From the second layer to the third layer is a second. This is how we measure everything. Yeah? And it's the gaps between them that's important because that tells you how things can tune to each other. This is the part we really need to understand. See, Rick, anybody, do you see what's a seventh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers in.
I don't get what you mean by layers in. Do you mean what sounds good to your ear when you play notes on a guitar? Is that what you mean?
No. Look at the drawing. The field has a Coulomb's barrier, 8 Coulomb's barriers, right?
Well, so I understand Coulomb's barriers, but you know, you say you go through these. I'm not going through Coulomb's barriers with you, Mario. I don't understand what the heck you're talking about.
You don't know
7, 8 Coulomb's barriers from one to the other. I don't understand.
Right,
if you could play it on a guitar or something, do you mean you could play this and we could understand what you mean, perhaps?
No. Look, well, as simple as this.
Well, then if it can't be shown on, you can't show it on a string.
Rick, you have 8 layers in the plasma field.
What plasma field? What plasma field? What do you mean 8 layers? I've never heard Mr. Keshe talk about the 8 layers of the plasma field. I don't get that. Where did you get that, Mario, that Mr. Keshe has talked about that?
Okay, Mr. Keshe does this. 1, 2, 3. Doesn't he? Isn't that classic, Mr. Keshe? Counting the layers.
It's absolutely not.
That's not what Mr. Keshe does.
I disagree. I disagree too.
It's absolutely not what Mr. Keshe does. Please review your knowledge.
Well, please review the main image for the Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Let me bring that up first before we get into a big argument with this.
Well, look, I mean, this was the image of the Knowledge Seekers Workshop, the old one.
It was a 3-core reactor.
No.
It was a 3-core reactor, an artifact which is to reproduce what happens within a planet or within other...
Right, we replicate the universe. Right, we replicate the universe.
That's the thing about it.
This is what I'm drawing. This is what I'm drawing. And then I'm drawing another one here and another one here. Why an octave? Because when the container is an octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That will give me half the vibration of this, and there'll be a perfect interaction of sympathetic vibration. That's why, because you tune to the frequency. So that A will link to that A. That's all. That's why I'm adding 8 layers. Okay? It doesn't have to be 8 layers. It could be 8 trillion layers. But the octaves are real. I mean, I'm not making that up. I'm not just there. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Rick. That's what I'm drawing. If you put a string, put a straight line down the center of that, from the center out, and you go 8, those are the harmonic overtones. That's where those are Coulomb's barriers. Those layers. That's a core inside a core inside a core inside a core. It's actually a spiral. But
Well,
it's
this is
easier.
the thing. What is it? Is it a series of circles or is it a spiral? If it is a spiral, is it a phi-based logarithmic spiral? Or
Yes,
is it a
it's
regular spiral like the
no,
one that we showed
it's a
before?
fee-based.
So what was the context of that illustration?
He draws this all the time. I mean, it's the most.
Well,
he either draws
usually
spirals
he
or he
usually
draws
does
circles
this.
inside of circles.
He usually does a spiral, generally speaking, but
Right, or he'll do a. Okay, let me get a whiteboard again, Rick. Let me get a whiteboard. Let me share screen. Okay. All right. If I draw, I'm going to clear all this. Okay. If I draw a spiral, I'm just going to do a few turns. One more.
Could I barge in a bit here?
Well, let me just finish this. See, there'll be another spiral, but it's really hard to draw. All right, maybe I can do it like this. Magnetic and gravitational. Really hard to draw. I'm not doing this very well.
Why are they going in a different direction? Are you inspired by Dan Winter?
Magnetic and gravitational. And you'll get a ball inside a ball inside a ball inside a ball. And you also, if I did it right, you get an egg inside an egg inside an egg inside an egg. Which is like exactly what Mr. Keshe said. This is an egg inside an egg inside an egg inside an egg. See how the egg always has, this should be really butted up against this one here. It should be like there. The yolk is always off to one side. But basically you get a ball inside a ball inside a ball because the fields are crossing. One going in one direction. Another way you could do it is like this.
We see it in the sunflower.
Right? A ball inside a ball inside a ball inside a ball. It's the Fibonacci spiral ratios in magnetic and gravitational. You don't think that the whole universe does this and just stops, do you? Of course not. It's actually, well, it's an artery and then there's a vein. I mean, you can't just, I mean, okay, anyway, you see, and so now if I take a string and I have it tied off from here to here, then there's my A, ping. This one maybe is my G, ping. There's my F, ping. There's my E. There's my D. There's my C. And there's my A out there. If I do it from the bottom, A, G, F. Well, it's really E, D, C, B, A. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. What? So Mr. Keshe does it the way the Greeks did, from the inside out. But we always do it from the outside in. So A, B, C. It's a third. Counting the layers. You see, Rick, now? I'm counting the layers of the fields. A fourth, A, B, C, D. That's a fourth. Now, this will have a certain vibration rate relative to this. Okay? So it's the interval we call a fourth. What's the ratio of it and all that? Well, if you want to figure that out, okay, but it's just confusing math. Doesn't matter. Whatever the spiral size is, the ratios are always the same, no matter what. However,
well,
right?
Well, I don't understand where you get these ratios or these distances, because I thought they would always be multiples of the string lengths having to do with them and so on, and it gets confusing to me where you put in these lengths.
Well, it's confusing to me too, but it's just, it is what it is. The ratio for the seventh is a certain calculation, and if this is the central core, then it ends up, you know, here, wherever. That's just where it ends up. You know, if the central core is bigger, it's pushed out some. And it's, if you're counting from the inside out, it's a second layer down. Whatever that frequency is, it is. And it's always the same ratio. A down to a G. What, you know, if I tune to 440, it's an A, whatever the G is, which I don't even know, it'll be that calculation. If I tune to 444, then the frequency numbers change, but it's still A to G. It's not do, re, mi, same intervals, same melody, but completely different frequencies. See?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that.
So it's the difference of the layers you count. It's the architecture of the layers. That's the way to count. It's this way you can measure everything from everything else. And all you have to do is count an octave, because if you go another octave, it's the same ratios. Everything's actually exactly doubled, but it's the same ratios. So you can count everything in within one octave, take a measurement. So look, let's show you this. If this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now you see, I'm just counting the layers. I'm just putting them in straight lines. So this is this layer, and this is this A, B. So A, B, C, D, E, F, whoops, F, G, A. Now, if I plot hydrogen, which is a plasma, it has these layers. There's a certain gap distance. In a rounded off way, we call it a whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. But it's actually the Fibonacci, but it has to turn when you calculate the Fibonacci. And so when going in a straight line, it just more or less turns out really rounded off, because it's nowhere near a half step. It's more like over 2/3 of it. But in a way, just you can do that and get very, very accurate measurements. So if I have another hydrogen, then because the ratios are exactly the same, it means that it'll have the exact same positioning. So that means you can get a sympathetic vibration link to every one of these. So in a unison or an octave, it's the highest level harmonic resonance, because it's a layer by layer interaction. This is what we need to measure. And if imagine like it's a stair or it's a building. These are the floors of the building. So these would be like catwalks that connect them, so that you can exchange energy back and forth. This is how it works. It's actually one layer connecting. It's this layer actually doing one of these, and this layer doing one of these, and so on. And in a unison or an octave. So if I have a hydrogen and another hydrogen atom, here's what's interesting. The way I calculated, which may not be the correct positioning, but this understanding has to be correct. It's impossible the sympathetic vibration and harmonic resonance is not a function of workings of the plasma, to me. I mean, I've literally plucked a steel string and made nylon plastic strings vibrate, or their positioning, or wood. If that's not what Mr. Keshe says about tuning into a frequency, and you can make a magnet for wood, well, then somebody's going to have to explain what this phenomenon is, if that's not a function of the plasma. Plus the fact that whenever you have two notes interacting, like over here, this is a hole in the universe. What does that mean? A baby. So this phenomenon of sympathetic vibrations leads to harmonic resonance, increase in amplitude, and creates a third tone or a third entity. So two entities interact, you always get a third entity. If that's not the essence of creation, and that's Mr. Keshe, if you understand this, you understand the essence of the creation and the basis of spaceship technology. Basis of spaceship technology. Positioning. Sympathetic vibrations, I've created positioning to a piece of wood. How? Tuning to the frequency. Mr. Keshe explained that a couple of weeks ago, 3 times at least. You have to tune to the frequency, tune to the frequency. So if you tune to the frequency, what do you get? You get baby. If you get lift and motion, and you get a third entity. You get essence of creation. See, we don't think of life as, it's not life if it's not an amino acid. It's not biology. Every single entity, these are living energies. So when a living energy intersects with a living energy, you get life. All the time, it's all life. And it's the essence of creation. So if I have carbon perfectly in tune with the 5th layer of hydrogen. Now, why is that important? Well, look at the structure of the layer. I'm going to add another somewhere. A, B, C, D, E.
You need to wrap things up here soon. I need to actually leave in a few minutes here and go start another workshop.
Well, let me just show you this, and then okay, this layer is in tune. The fundamental of this one, like if this is a building, this is at ground level. This is a building; it's on a big hill, so its fundamental is in tune with the 5th layer. So relative to hydrogen, carbon is exactly harmonizing with the 5th layer of this. Now, if you look at the structure, you have a whole step, half step. Same structure, whole step, half step, whole step. I didn't do that right. But all right, this layer links. This layer does not. This layer links. This layer links. They're all in tune. This layer links. This layer links. That layer links. And the last layer links. Okay? See, a 5th has one layer that does not link. So it's not quite as strong as a unison or an octave, but it's extremely strong harmonic resonance, and it'll link in position. And the difference between those is a hydrogen. Oxygen is several octaves above hydrogen, according to what I have. So oxygen and hydrogen, and the difference as of an octave is a hydrogen. Carbon and hydrogen, the difference between those is a hydrogen. Calcium is a D. It's the difference between calcium and hydrogen. It's a 4th higher is actually a D. So you can use this to not only know how strong, how well any entities will link, and whether they'll position themselves. If they're in tune, then they will link. If they're not, then they will create motion. And this is how you measure everything from everything else.
Okay, thank you, Mario. We have to wrap it up now. That's great. And I know there's some very true things in this teaching that you're trying to tell us here. Some people are either bored or they're not getting it and so on, and there's a lot of confusion. So we have to let it go for now, but we'll come back. We'll come back to this from time to time, because there's more to this idea of the octave and the way it works in life, actually. And it's a part of a big teaching that I would like to get to and get beyond some of this stuff that we've been dealing with here, trying to work out string lengths and how the frequencies and ratios and so on are all figured out. That's a different topic than I'd really like to get into here. Unfortunately, we're out of time because I have to go start another workshop. I should let people know that we're having a short session here today, and now it's gone, unfortunately. So that's the way it goes, I guess. And not too much we can do about that. I'm obligated to go start the private teaching right now. Okay, so that wraps it up for today, and stay tuned next week for another session of the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group. And this is now Wednesday, January 24th, 2018. Thanks, everybody. It's kind of a tough session in a way because it's hard to get our minds around these new ideas and concepts, and Mario's very enthusiastic about his thing, and you know, and others that present things, and sometimes it can get confusing, but we have to try to include them because, number one, like someone like Mario's been around for a long time. He's not a newcomer to this teaching, and he pays really good attention to what Mr. Keshe says. So, and also Mario's a musician for many, many years, and it's what he does as a profession. And so he demands our, you know, he needs our respect in terms of what he has to present. I think we need to question him more so we can all follow along, because as soon as he loses one of us, then we're lost for the whole rest of what he's saying. It doesn't make any sense at that point. So we have to keep coming back to some basics here that make more sense. I'm going to do a little more research on the way music works into this, into the whole picture that we're trying to put together here. And maybe we can come to some common understanding where things make sense and we have a lot of fun going from that place forward. What do you say, Guy?
Golden ratio, all of you.
May the golden ratio be with you.
Yeah, there you go. That's well said. May the golden ratio be with you.
All right, so we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks, everybody.
I can give many thanks to all of you, especially Mario. Keep going. It's sinking in. I have some questions from another angle, so if you get a chance and have the time, or if anybody else has the time, they can clean up his drawing and show it a little bit so that others can see it. I look at the center as a soul. When he's looking at the babies, I look at them as souls. When he's looking at the shell that goes from around for that makes the tone, I look at that as a sensation, and how to link these souls and sensations together will help me understand how to make matter from a soul level. So thank you very much, Mario.
You're all welcome, and thank you all. Thank you, Rick, for allowing me for tolerance. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mario. I have learned too much thing, but I understand about 1/4. But I try to learn more and more about this one. It's very interesting. Thank you, Mario.
Okay, one last thing. Alper, you're no longer invited to the workshop here. I don't like your comments here. You're being very condescending to Mario, actually. And you didn't even, you know, give him that space. So, sorry, I don't go with your comments, and you're no longer an invitee here, let's say. You'll have to go and look on the live stream, I guess, or something like that. Too bad. You blew your chance, buddy. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now. I have to go.